Nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that there are currently so-called traitors in Parliament.
Are there current or past parliamentarians, senators, or MPs? Is there clear evidence of them collaborating with foreign countries?
Yes. The number is not 11, the number is over 50.
Justice Hogue released her controversial report on foreign interference on January 28th. And the controversy didn't end there, as former senior CSIS intelligence officers' harsh criticism of the report went missing from the CBC's website. Although we did end up eventually seeing the footage and releasing a video on it, we still felt that there was a lot left unsaid. So we decided to do some serious digging and ended up securing an interview with that same man. He is a former investigator for the RCMP, former chief of the Asia-Pacific region for CSIS, has a PhD, has been CEO of a corporation specializing in threat risk assessment and counterintelligence analysis, and most recently has served as professor of criminology at the University of Ottawa and Université de Sherbrooke. Northern Perspective is proud to present Michel Juneau-Katsuya.
Let's take a look. We saw your reaction to the Hogue report on your brief interview with Artie Pohl on CBC. We found that it was interesting that that interview wasn't really available on the live stream of CBC for the entire day, and we only saw it posted to CBC. I think it was about 3 days later that your interview was actually posted. So we wanted to get you on the show because you seem to have one of the few, I will say, raw takes on what the Hogue report actually showed. We've done our analysis, but what's your overall impression of the public inquiry, the witnesses that testified, and the conclusions that Justice Hogue drew in her report?
That's a great question, and would take quite a while to maybe answer it. I'll try to be brief. Basically, I got what I expected. If you return at the beginning, after the announcement by the government that the inquiry would take place, I was asked to predict what would happen, and I got exactly what I predicted, which was a sweet and sour. Sweet in the sense that they admitted that there is foreign interference, but we knew that for the last 30 years. And over 300 witnesses went in front of 5 different parliamentary committees to say so. So didn't really need that. Sour in a sense because we've discovered much more, which also was important, and some very, very controversial information came out of the inquiry. I don't think the government was expecting that. But the sour part is that the judge was not harsh as she could have. It was clear from the beginning that the government wanted to be very, very limited in the mandate. They had to look at the election of 2019, 2020. And they also set the tone by saying, and we have to look at how CSIS can be better at communicating with us, with the government. Well, wait a minute. During the interview, the director Vigneault, former director Vigneault of CSIS, went not once, but twice. And he said, listen, I met directly with the Prime Minister. I asked several times to meet with the Prime Minister, and I was also several times prevented to meet with him. And when finally I met with him, twice I was asked to modify the report that CSIS has written. So it's not because there was a problem of communication. It's because, if somebody doesn't want to hear, there's no more no more difficulties than having somebody who doesn't want to listen the message or want you to change the narrative because the narrative doesn't please you. During the inquiry, several information that came out should have generated also investigation from the RCMP. For example, we had high officials of the Liberal Party and the Conservative, but the Liberal Party in particular, that confessed and testified that they informed Hang Dong that he was under investigation and he should be careful. Well, wait a minute. This is a breach of trust. This is a breach of security. In any other circumstances, this is jail time. How come the investigation, the RCMP is not investigating that? Both parties have confessed that the rules are fairly flexible in order to be capable to basically pick the candidate they want when there is when they have to decide who will be running in certain ridings. And right there is a problem when we talk about protecting our democracy. Everybody is resisting having standard rules and regulations that could be investigated by Election Canada or other form of authorities when you have like 2 buses of foreign student going to vote for one guy, and you don't see that as loading the dice and foreign interference. A lot of very, very outrageous information came out, and it doesn't transpire that much. The judge sort of mellowed down to a certain extent because how do you want to defend the undefendable? And to a certain extent, unfortunately, there was criticism about the selection of Judge Hogue because, well, for 1997 to 2013, she was working at Enon Blakey, a law firm that went in disgrace. That was also the law firm of Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Jean Chrétien, and other heavy cannon of the Liberals. So she was a personal friend of the Trudeau's family. So it was to be expected that the report will be kind of gentle. And that's what, to me, this report is. It doesn't reflect enough the seriousness of the crisis that we are currently going. The notion of national security is not well understood in this country. The culture of national security is absolutely absent, and we need to sort of work on that element. Definitely. Another challenge also for the judge was that she has absolutely no knowledge at all of what intelligence world is about. And right from the get-go, when you read the report, she interchanged the word information and intelligence at various places.
Yeah, and they're totally separate.
But it's 2 different things. You know, we collect information, we produce intelligence. Intelligence is produced by information plus analysis. Then we have intelligence. So intelligence is the end of a very professional process. So when the government and the staff around the PM came and said, well, you know, the intelligence is not like evidence with the police. We have to take that with a grain of salt. We're never really sure what we're doing. No. Intelligence is based on fact. Intelligence is based on what we have collected. Sometimes in the classes that I teach at university, I say to my student, a ton is a ton. A ton of brick, it doesn't take as much brick to make a ton as it will take as feather. I need much more feather. And intelligence collect feather. But at the end, a ton is a ton. And this is exactly what was denigrated, which was sort of downplay with the quality of the intelligence that was presented, and somehow it's a disservice to this country to undermine the credibility of the institution that is supposed to protect us. CSIS is doing that full time, by the way, guys. You know, it's not doing that part time. So, and it's not an academic piece of work. It's done very, very differently. Other very, very outrageous element that should be investigated. For example, Bill Blair, which was the Minister of Public Safety, took 54 days. He's a former chief of police. Took 54 days before he approved a warrant that CSIS asked against Michael Chang. Michael Chang, who's a heavy shooter for the Liberals in Toronto area, and have been known to collaborate with the Chinese government for decades. And at the end, he waited so long that CSIS lost the window of opportunity to be capable to conduct their warrant. So a lot of the judge referred to it as lack of good decision, or referred to it as dragging their feet a little bit to make decisions. No. There were criminal actions, period. There were criminal actions. And that, to me, is something that they pushed onto the rugs, as I expected. And now look at the timing. The timing couldn't be worse to a certain extent from a Canadian perspective, because where the House of Commons is not sitting in. So we're going to have to wait until March. When March arrives, they will probably quickly call for election. So now we're going to go into election. It's going to take several months before we get a new government. And when the government is in, it will take another several months before anything is done about running or changing what is needed in the law and in the operational activities in order to sort of secure our country. So at the end of the day, by the time the whistleblower sort of took the documents to the press, which was August 2022 and fall 2022, to the time we finally get something going, which will be 2026, gosh, man, almost 4 years have gone by. Our allies are looking at us and say, whoa. Out of the Five Eyes, you guys are the crooked eyes. You're not sort of doing your part. You're not doing something seriously. But this is, from an investigator point of view, only making a demonstration to me that the agent of influence within the government have succeeded in manipulating the system. And this has been going on since Mr. Mulroney until now. Every single government, and independently of the color, red or blue, have been corrupted, have been compromised. Several ministers have collaborated willingly, intentionally, with foreign entities. Who's putting Canada first? When I'm listening to what's going on, strangely enough, the only people who have been asking the right question is Le Bloc Québécois. They're the only people asking the right questions, but they know they'll never take the power, so they are concerned about the institutions. They are concerned about, all right, for the province of Quebec, that's their right, but they're also concerned about the Canadians. So far, they're the only one, to my point of view, that are asking the right questions, and I'm very disappointed to see the behavior of our political leaders, both red and blue.
I think what is most jarring for Canadians hearing the results of the report are 7 months ago we had the Zenzikop report come out, and you had people saying there's 11 parliamentarians, past or present, that have wittingly or semi-wittingly, let's just translate that, they've knowingly collaborated with foreign states against the interest of Canada and Canadians. And Hogue's report, she comes out and says there's no traitors in Parliament. And the former chair of the Zenzikop committee says, oh yeah, that's what our report basically said, which it didn't. And then we looked at the report, yet there's clear examples, even in the report, that talk about people or MPs trying to influence their colleagues, feeding intelligence back to at least India. You have the Han Dong situation. So let's just ask the question, are there current or past parliamentarians, senators or MPs, Is there clear evidence of them collaborating with foreign countries?
Yes. And the number is not 11, the number is over 50. We have the name, we have the evidence, we know when it happened, we know how it happened, and it could have led to investigation in the past and everything. But one of the challenges that we have in Canada, in all fairness, is that unfortunately, just like our allies before, we don't have a clear definition of what foreign interference is about. Bill C-70 is exactly about that, modifying the criminal code, the law of Information Security Act, in order to be capable to define exactly what foreign interference is about. So the law enforcement, mainly the RCMP, are capable to investigate and eventually maybe prosecute. But we're not at this point capable to do so. So there's a lot of element where we could go, for example, breach of trust, breach of their security clearance or something like this, but it's a little bit more difficult. We're far from we're far from home even when we will change the law and we'll be capable to define what foreign interference is about. It's still going to be quite difficult. And to this extent, I will paraphrase what the Honorable Judge John Major said when he was giving his press conference following the Air India inquiry that he led in the justice system in Canada when it comes to treat national security issues. We are still very juvenile. We're still lacking experience. And we still need to find prosecutors with the backbone to be capable to go ahead. And we need to have judges to understand what national security is about. Look, for example, Madame Hogue, she didn't know the difference between information and intelligence to a certain extent because she interchanged the word constantly in her report. And that's a big mistake. So if anything at all, we should try to do like France has done. France has suffered a lot of terrorist activities for many decades. And what they eventually did, they created a group of prosecutors and a group of judges that they've specially trained about national security, about intelligence, how to treat intelligence, how to understand how intelligence is produced and everything. So they don't mistake the difference between common crimes and national security crimes or terrorism or whatever, espionage. It's way, way different. And just to give you another example, the disparity that exists, take the case of Jeffrey Delisle. Jeffrey Delisle was a lieutenant Navy in Halifax who for 3 years gave secrets to the GRU, the Russian military intelligence. He was arrested, eventually confessed, eventually collaborated with the authority, still got 20 years for what he has done. Cameron Ortiz, DG with the RCMP, Director General with the RCMP, responsible for strategic intelligence, gave intelligence to terrorists, gave intelligence to organized crime, refused to collaborate, went through his entire trial, and received 15 years. He put at risk, law enforcement officers were acting as double agent and undercover agent, and still got only 15 years. Why? Why? One guy cooperate, the other guy doesn't cooperate. Why the difference here? The justice system in Canada still very juvenile, to say like Judge Major, when it comes to treat national security. And we lack that culture in Canada. We don't really understand because for decades, every government we had in the past refused to talk about national security. So speak no evil, see no evil, understand no evil. And that's exactly what we are currently facing as a challenge as a nation.
So 50 is a terrifying number, I think, for most Canadians. But from what you're saying,
past and current.
Yeah, and from what you're saying, and this is where I think Canadians will misinterpret things. They will equate foreign interference to treason. but that is a false equivalency in our legal system, isn't it?
The line is thin. The line is thin between the two. If you go strictly according to the criminal code as we speak, the bar is quite high to the threshold is quite high to call somebody a traitor. But the end result is exactly the same thing to a certain extent. When you give information or you favor a country that is not this country in this decision process or anything like this, somewhere, somehow, it's problematic. It's very, very problematic. We talk about transnational repression. That is the kind of repression that is done by authoritarian countries in certain ethnic community that we have right here, who should receive and get our protection as they deserve. But they succeed in doing this. We had the assassination by the Indian government of a Sikh leader. We have the destruction of reputations and names of people who would try to run for a party or in certain community. But we have also literally blackmails going on for people who are forced to either say nothing, be quiet, or do certain things in order to protect their family and their loved ones back in the country of their origin, if they still have family over there. That is one form of foreign interference. Foreign interference, basically there's 5 forms or 5 sectors of foreign interference. There's the political one that we discuss quite extensively. There's the academic one, where they mainly go to steal intellectual property. There's the military one, there's the industrial one, and the last one that I was mentioning about just a moment ago, the repression within the community. So foreign interference is a weird animal, because depending of which one you're talking about, it's closer to espionage, it's closer to blackmail, it depends what it is, it's bullying. But it's all done with proxies right here. It's all done with people who collaborate. And they're not all the time from the ethnic group of the country that they are helping. Some people are simply what Stalin used to call the useful idiots. The people who willingly will sort of help, maybe because they're in love with the culture, they're in love with their food, I don't know, but they want to sort of help, and they're well treated. And skilled intelligence officer will see that, will understand that, and will manipulate the people to their advantage, sometimes without even their realization that they have been manipulated. But what this report, the insect report, was about, we're talking about people who willingly, intentionally, and purposely have collaborated with foreign countries. That's another ballgame. Now we're close to treason. We're close to people who have definitely caused harm to either Canadians or this country. And that is something that is that should be taken seriously. And also, that needs to be mentioned that it's all 3 government level, municipal, provincial, and federal. It's not only federal, municipal as well. And what we have been witness also through the years is people will move from one level to another. People will start in a major city, then move to provincial, then move to federal, or start with federal and come back and become mayor of a city, or something like this. So we've got to sort of be careful, because the Chinese has understood. If I talk about the Chinese, because I was the chief of Asia Pacific, well, chief of Asia Pacific, I was covering India and China, so I can talk about both. But when the expression, they wrote the book, well, the Chinese really wrote the book. 2,000 years ago, The Art of War, Sun Tzu wrote the book, and it explained very, very well how influence is much better than control. Demands less energy, it's easier to achieve, and greater success with influence, because somewhere, somehow, you've got your opponent who willingly will decide to do something that advantage you. It's great. It's phenomenal. So when Judge Hogue says that in 2019, 2021, there was some foreign interference in a certain writing, probably some people succeeded in getting their candidate to come in, it did not sort of upset the overall election. And I agree. I totally agree. But the thing is that you don't need an army. You don't need 50% or 20%. You just need one or two or five people that will be close to the decision process, close to the decider, close to the people who make decisions, influence them in going in certain direction, and that's sufficient. That's sufficient. You know, it's just like it's like having to tip something. You just need to push with one finger, not my entire body, just one finger, and suddenly you tip the balance, and you put your finger on the balance to go a certain way. That's what foreign interference is about.
Well, and to your point, she said, well, maybe it allowed a candidate here or there to be appointed in the riding, and it's almost like she's saying, so what? And we're sitting back and saying, what do you mean, so what? So what is it? You have to do something, and so what can also be taken to this degree. Recently, if you've been following the Liberal leadership race, there was a gentleman named Chandra Arya who was looking to potentially become the leader of the country. Nobody thought he had a chance because he didn't speak French and wasn't interested in speaking French.
And for him, it wasn't important.
Right.
But there was an active campaign online to vote for him because he was the worst candidate. So we asked the question, we're not saying he is, but what happens if a candidate like that is under the influence of a foreign nation and he does get appointed to be prime minister? That's a disaster for this country.
Absolutely, particularly when we know currently the drama that is going on between India and Canada, between a country where the prime minister has seriously taken the country in India into a nationalist, religious, nationalist zealot, and Canada has been receiving all form of disinformation and propaganda and defamation coming from that country. It's amazing. It's amazing. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is problematic, but somewhere, I'm glad it took place to a certain extent, because this guy just burned himself. This guy just burned himself. He just revealed his cards. So he cannot sort of play poker with us anymore, because we know exactly what it is, who it is, and I like it. I like it. And if anything at all, one of the positive effect definitely that took place with the Hogue Commission, despite the fact that it dragged its feet again, blah, blah, blah. At least we've been talking for quite a long time now, and it raised the awareness within the population. Podcasts like yours have been asking the right questions, have been engaged into the conversation, engaged into the discussions. And this has been lacking in this country for a long period of time. And that's the reason why, at the end, in the summer or the fall of 2022, somebody in the intelligence community said, "F it. I'm going to give documents to the media because that's it, that's all." We've been seeing it since Mr. Mulroney. We've been warning every prime minister. We've been telling them one after the other. They either used the information to their advantage, personal or political, or did nothing intentionally. So nobody has sort of put the safety of Canada, the security of Canada ahead of their personal interests. So it needs to change. And I think it's one of the historical moment for Canada that has been one of the great one. Painful, because now we are revealing certain things that only few intimate people into the security world knew about, but it came out because You see, the existence of national security will necessitate to have uh, um, a security intelligence organization. But a security intelligence organization in a democratic society, it's kind of a necessary evil. It's necessary because, as we saw in the previous years with terrorism and stuff like that, there's some really crazy dude out there ready to do awful things in order to promote their ideas, promote their ideology. And we have to stop that. But at the same time, it's an evil because our constitutions, our right, try to protect our privacy, our right of freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of religions, sexual orientation, blah, blah, blah. And here you have an organization that can put a camera in your bedrooms, a listening device in your in your toilets, in your bathroom. We can open your mail. We can follow you in the name of protecting the nation. So how do we sort of find this balance between having this necessary evil and having to combat some people that are ready to do bad things? And we need to strive in that perspective. And transparency, accountability is where we need to strike. That's where we need to go. And we do that in a democratic society by talking about it and finding ways to make people accountable. Because in the name of secrecy, a lot of bad things can be done. And let's put it this way, the government is the one who identified the threat, investigate the threat, prosecute the threat, and eventually punish the threat. So the dice are loaded. Somebody will sort of decide if, okay, today I'm going after blue eyes and blonde hair, and that's it, that's all, we're going. Because that's what the government have decided. And we're not asking question? No, we need to ask question. This is what democracy is about. We're watching down south with this orange clown now that is sort of turning this country into a fascist state. It needs to stop. It needs to be capable to stop. And currently, he's roller steaming everything that this country has thought they had put as safeguard to prevent that kind of abuses. But the abuses are ongoing. We're far from that situation right here. But at the same time, we've got some element within our societies that are willing to use violence. Extremism for me is extremism. Red, left, checkered deck, I don't care. I'm going to investigate and neutralize that because that's not what my values are. That's my country. That's not what my society is about. And we need to be capable to stop that. But we need to stop that with finding, again, also the kind of discourses with our political leaders that brings back the decorum that we used to have and the respect that we used to have for elected officials. I have a lot of respect to people who will sacrifice 4 or 5 years or more of their life, for their family life, their private life, etc., in order to serve this country. So personal attacks or people who gives half truth, half lies as they come along. Well, monkey see, monkey do. People watch those political leaders acting the way they do, and now suddenly we're having people throwing rocks at our prime minister or aggressing, bullying our ministers when they are visiting their ridings. The Sergeant of Arms at the House of Commons said that since 2018, the threat against elected officials has increased by 800%. 800%. The RCMP has, since last year, more than 60% increase of threat against elected officials again. They have difficulties to give enough security to all the people that are requesting it. In all provinces, people at the municipal level are quitting before the end of their term because of the threat and the language that have been used against them, against their family, the fear they have for the safety of their family and everything. What's going on? What's going on? This is unacceptable, intolerable. Unfortunately, with the social media, there's a polarization that is taking place. And people now are finding themselves into echo chamber. And these echo chamber, well, guess what? They're fed also by foreign entities, foreign services that are sort of feeding them in order to create division in our society. And that division serve their purpose. When we are distracted by conflict within, we don't pay attention to the conflict outside of our countries. And that's exactly what is currently with Russia, with China, with Iran, with Saudi Arabia, with India. I could go on like this.
Yeah, we see it all the time on YouTube. Just the misinformation, disinformation, the lies that are spread, and you can see it coming from the different countries. It's insane.
Well, and we've been trying to warn our audience, especially as we approach an election, that especially, you know, Russia, I know that's one of their MOs is disinformation, and China to a certain degree, but they I know they also have their hands in other baskets as well. But we've been trying to warn our audience that you're going to start seeing some crazy things, and unfortunately, there's going to be people on YouTube and other social media platforms that won't care about the accuracy about these things. They will pick them up, they will regurgitate them, and then that's when people start trusting that to be true, and that's when the I'll say the intelligence operatives of these nefarious foreign nations are sitting back and they're giving themselves a round of applause because they're seeing their message move, and it can have a damaging effect. And I think we've even said that if I'm Russia or China, I'm looking back and looking at the state of Canada and saying, mission accomplished.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. You know, there's a new form of warfare that is taking place. NATO used to have five designated warfare: land, sea, air, cyber, and space. There's a new form now called cognitive warfare. It's very, very serious. We're studying it. We're looking at it. And it's basically, cognitive warfare is the way to alter your critical sense of thinking. If I can feed you with the wrong information, with the disinformation or fake news enough, you're losing your bearing. You're losing your capability to analyze correctly. And at the end of the day, we'll be capable to overthrow a democratic state without firing a single bullet, simply by creating stir and trouble within that society, and being capable to have the people we want, far very likely far right, to be capable to sort of rise at the top and to control. And people would say, okay, now we need order, so we'll take a very strong leader, and that strong leader happened to be on the fascist side, you know. So we're having a phenomenal challenge with artificial intelligence being added to this.
Well, and me coming from my IT background, we know this more than most, and the prevailing theory in IT, especially IT security, is that if somebody is coming at you with AI, there is only one defense, and that defense is if you have a counter AI to that, because you can't react fast enough, you can't react sophisticated enough, especially with deepfake. The human eye is not going to be able to determine, you know, what is a deepfake and what is not within a matter of months, if not even a few years away. It's so close now, and you're only going to be able to determine if something is deepfake soon by artificial intelligence looking at it and analyzing it.
It takes months. It takes 15 minutes to create, or for artificial intelligence even less, to create a fake news, and months, if not more, to debunk it. So it's a great problem we're currently facing. So the only defense is for the citizens to arm themselves with awareness, to speak to each other, to sort of pay attention to what's going on, to ask our elected officials to be accountable a little bit more, to have the safeguard mechanism in place in order to be capable to sort of warn people. See, and to come back to the Hogue report, that's one of the things that was said. The group of senior public servant that was supposed to watch for foreign interference in 2019, 2021, came and testified and said, yeah, we noticed that there was some taking place, but we talked with one another and we decided that it wasn't meeting the threshold. So the next question was, what is the threshold? Creak, 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 creak,
We
creak.
don't know.
Big silence. They couldn't say because they didn't have a threshold. What the hell, man? You're supposed to be professional at what you do, and you say it didn't meet the threshold, but you don't have really a threshold. This is the kind of amateurism that we're having, and that harmed us, and we need to be capable now to be serious at it. And this is why I was talking about the culture of national security. But then I will bring another angle to all this. If you want to talk about national security, the provinces needs to be involved as well. And one of the problem is that the provinces are constantly in a tug of war with the federals on all sort of things, just because they are the province and they think that they need to be in this disagreement. Wait a minute, guys. In June 2023, Trudeau did a lot of bad things, but he did some good things as well. And Mr. Trudeau offered to all the premier to receive a special security briefing from CSIS. All the premier were invited. Only the premier of BC accepted. All the other guys declined. Now, just a fact. Every year in Canada, combined federal and provinces, we invest an average of $15 billion, it's a B, $15 billion in R&D. So the provinces are, in average, putting each of them close to $1 billion in R&D. It goes mainly to our academic world and fundamental research and stuff like that. Now, the concept of investing into R&D is that you're going to get a return on investment one day. So you need to be capable to produce something which eventually you will be capable to commercialize. And that's how the wheel works, and you grease the wheel. But if the province refused to get their briefing and to know what's going on, we got a serious problem because you're not protecting your own investment. So guys, wake up and smell the coffee, because where do you think the intellectual property are disappearing? Current estimation by experts are that Canada is losing an average of $100 to $120 billion per year of R&D or contract or business opportunities, etc. Even if you cut that by half, 50 billion, can we afford to lose that? And that is because the right hand doesn't speak with the left hand. So now we need the province to be on board as well. So if we talk about national security, I strongly recommend that every premier has a national security advisor. That person will have the security clearance. That person will make the trip to Ottawa, will get their briefing on regular basis every month if necessary, because national security is not only about foreign interference. It's not only about espionage. It's also about terrorism. It's also about right-wing extremists or left-wing extremists, any form of extremism. Because guess what? The dude who decided to run with his car on the street in Toronto and kill 11 people, he wasn't left or right. He hated women. This is the other form of extremism that we're starting to see and to emerge as well.
Extremism.
Exactly. So in that perspective, we need to be capable to be informed and to protect our society if we know what's going on. But currently the provinces, they don't know. They don't know.
So if we're looking at how to move forward here, because we've talked about a lot about the diagnosis of where the problems are, what's going on, what's not working. From everything that I've heard from you, it sounds like we need a lot of things. Number one, we need national security and intelligence. We need participation at every level of government. We need to be equipping CSIS with more capabilities or more tools or something to allow them to be able to act on evidence. Perhaps we need a, dare I say it, another unit that is assigned to this that takes it seriously, because Canadians are wondering if there's 50 people that have engaged in collaboration with foreign countries in the past and in the present. Why have we heard of no arrests being made? That needs to be taken seriously, and we need to be changing the culture of Canada and national security to one that the U.S. seems to embrace, as we've seen some recent examples of, one of sunlight, transparency, and we don't hide behind the excuse of national security. We put it out in the open to dissuade people from engaging in it. So do you think that the only way that we're going to get these things and more that we need, because I've no doubt not exhausted the list, is if Canadians demand of their politicians, no matter the party, no matter the stripes, that this become a priority in the mandate of the next government and at all levels?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you put the finger on one of the problems that we've seen in the past. When do you recall in any political platform of any election in the last 50 years, national security was part of the platform? Never. Never. National security wasn't part of any discussion or platform. Oh, we talked about national defense occasionally, but we didn't talk really about national security. And now we need to talk about national security. And not only we need to talk about national security, I need to see commitment from the people who runs to become prime minister, that they're very serious about it, and they will put the safety of this country ahead of their personal agenda. And this is lacking. This is lacking. And that's, you know what, I hate to say to a certain extent, but Trump has probably done better for the Canadian unity than all the prime ministers in my living time. You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. Now, finally, the sort of the province and the federals are talking about, you know, border security and stuff like that. It's like, you know, we've been lacking so much in that field. National defense is 16,000 people short of the number of they should have minimum to staff our national defense. The RCMP is 20% below the minimum of police officer they need to be capable to fulfill all their obligation. We lack so many judges has not been named that every single day with the Jordan call. There is criminal cases thrown out because we don't have judges to be capable to judge them and everything, and it goes on and on like this. So it's time that we understand that national security is not an expense. National security is a strategic investment in the prosperity of this country. When you do not invest in the prosperity of this country, well, other guys will come and abuse you and use you and make it sure that it goes somewhere else. I'll give you an example. Mr. Harper sold a company called Nexon, $15 billion to the Chinese, a Chinese owned by the government of China. You know, we're not even capable to buy a corner store in China. The reciprocity is not even there. Now, I was talking a little bit earlier how the Chinese understand the notion of influence. You and I are Canadians. Let's try to call Miss Smith in Alberta. You're probably going to be put on hold. If they call because they hired 3,000 people in Alberta, they will have probably a meeting with her in the days that follow. That's the kind of influence that the Chinese has understood. That is the kind of opponent that we understand. And Mr. Harper wasn't there to defend us. He wasn't there to defend us. Matter of fact, 5 members of his cabinet went and worked directly after they left the cabinet. They went to work for a Chinese company, including Stockwilde with public safety and the former Minister of Foreign Affairs for Canada. So, talk about the secret and the knowledge and the information that these guys left and went to work. No cold period, cooling period before they went to work for foreign entities. We're really, really a bunch of peewees when it comes to national security.
Well, as we say in IT, it's the same thing with cybersecurity. It's usually one of the larger budget items on the balance sheet of private organizations and public organizations, and it's the first thing to get cut because it's the biggest budget item. But when something goes wrong, they turn around to the cybersecurity guys and they say, "Where were you? Why didn't this work?" Well, if you don't give me what I need, I can't protect you, and that's the problem, right? It's viewed as an expense. It's viewed as just a bottomless pit of money, but it's in effect insurance. If you take out insurance on national security, then you're going to prevent disasters from happening. And as with most things, preventing the issue is most often a lot easier and less expensive than cleaning up the issue, and that's what we're seeing
Absolutely. Now. Absolutely. It's a strategic investment. This is what it is about. It is a strategic investment that contribute to the profitability of the country, to the success of the country. Not doing so. And our allies have understood that. For example, in UK, the MI6, the equivalent, well, almost the equivalent of CSIS, host a conference every year where they invite business people to come and listen to the new threat that has been identified and everything. When CSIS tried to do that, the former CERC, which was the Security and Intelligence Review Committee, prevented CSIS to do so because by design, CSIS was designed to only inform the Prime Ministers and the Minister of Public Safety. That's where we are in the trouble that we are currently in. Because by design, back in 1984, Pierre Elliott Trudeau did exactly that. He wanted to have his private police, and he took that away from the RCMP. So if I could have a magic wand and do what should be done properly in order to have a full national security, dismantle CSIS, return everything to the RCMP, and give the power to the RCMP, because this is exactly what our allies are currently doing with, for example, the FBI. Because anyway, when CSIS finds something that is criminally prosecuted or prosecutable, that we should prosecute, it has to give it to the RCMP. The law says it, give it to the RCMP, and the RCMP will prosecute. So we're wasting time. We're wasting, and CSIS very often, because they want to protect their mean of investigation and their sources and everything, will not give the information to the RCMP. So that's obstruction to justice. And there are several cases where we have evidence of that. Air India, Sharkawi, Ahmed Rassam, Jeffrey Delil, to name only 4, where CSIS could have been prosecuted for obstruction of justice. So we've got to rethink the way we are looking and approaching national security. We need to have more transparency. We need to have more communication, and that the Hogue report was mentioning it. Communication needs to increase. CSIS needs to be capable, if we keep CSIS, and we will probably, must share information with more people, the public included, and definitely being capable to prosecute when we can. And that is something that needs to be acquired at a very professional level, which we don't have currently in our justice system.
So, Canadians, assuming you're still watching, this is your mandate. Talk to your candidate of choice, no matter the color. Demand that national security be a major item in this campaign whenever the election happens, and let them know that this must be in the mandate of the next government, because this is something that we cannot continue to ignore. It's affecting our way of life. It's affecting our culture. We've seen the effects of it. You just have to look at the news, and you look at social media, and you can see it plain as day. And I think, Canadians keep saying, well, I need to be able to trust my government again. I need to be able to trust the news again. Well, it sounds like that starts with us as Canadians demanding that national security be taken seriously, because once that starts to be taken seriously and changes start to be made, we're going to start seeing more transparency, and we'll be able to hopefully eventually trust our government again. So until that happens, we will continue to watch and hope. Thank you so much, Michelle, for joining us on Northern Perspective. It's been a privilege. Thank you for your service to this country, and thank you for your service in the classroom, educating the next generation.
And thank you very much to both of you for continuing informing the population and giving a chance to engage into the discussion. And I couldn't say how much I support the message you just sent to everybody. Please get involved. Please demand that this is on the agenda for the next election. It's really, really, really crucial. And don't wait too long, because we're going to lose it. And too much sacrifices through the decades have been done to have this beautiful country that we have, and we need to protect it.